Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Brews and Wine virtual wine tasting in Gainesville, Florida. Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre were the owners of Tipple's, and thank you very much for joining us for another delicious wine. This week, we are heading back to France to drink the Domaine de Marcoux Laurentine Lirac rouge. It makes me sound very fancy. But it's from Southern Rhone. We'll talk about the location later and why it's important and why it intrigued me to draw my attention to this specific red blend from the Southern Rhone area of France. So let's go ahead and jump to the first slide. We'll talk about some of the basics on this guy. So really nice points on this one. Robert Parker, 92. Jeff Dunnick, 92 points. So pretty good consensus on this guy. Food pairings, really flexible with this because it is a red blend. It works with a lot of foods, but steak and peppers, stuffed mushrooms, barbecue pork chops, all fun things that we could work with on there. Happy to hear from any of you guys what you ran with on this as far as a food pairing if you did so. And if you have not done so, let's jump back to us. It is that time, our favorite time. If you've not done so, go ahead and pour yourselves a glass and we will begin taking a look, a sniff, and a taste to get our first impressions on this wine. And then I'll talk a little bit about why it tastes, looks, and smells like it does. Give it a good splash. This wine can handle a few minutes to open up, but it doesn't require it. It actually comes out of the bottle very friendly. So the blend on this is a blend and it is part of the traditional blend. So when we get to the Southern Rhone in France, they have established a blend that is mimicked throughout the world. GSM, the GSM blend, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. Now last week's wine was a Garnacha, which is the same grape as Grenache, but from Spain. So we've had some experience with what that can do. It's a very flexible grape. It can be very, very lean, more strawberry and acid, tart strawberry with spices. It can be very intense with dark black fruits and some pepper. So it can run the gambit of what it's doing. In general, where you would have it as more of a strawberry side would be France. So that's kind of where we are. So, but this guy is a bit of a different. When I'm smelling it, I've got, to me, blackberry, black cherry, and pepper jumping right out of the glass, right? It's a bit more intense. Pepper generally would come from Syrah. So in the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, pepper would be mostly from the Syrah. Okay. And I'm kind of going to work back and forth on what grapes are in this wine because they did the delightful thing of listing it two completely different ways. Okay. So on the bottle, it says that it is 50% Grenache, 25% Syrah, 25% Mourvedre. Okay, that's great. That would be a very, very common breakdown of the grapes, right? But normally it would be lighter in color.
If it were 50%.
If it were 50% Grenache. If Grenache were the dominant grape, it would be usually lighter in color. Often you can see through it. Spiciness would make sense, but the fruit would be a little bit more on the strawberry plum side. Now, Mourvedre is more on the blackberry, black cherry side. So when I looked at other people reviewing these wines, they said, oh no, this is 50% Mourvedre and then 40% Syrah, only 10% Grenache. Honestly, it's a little hard to say, all right, which one is the right one. But from what I'm tasting with the intensity and the darkness on the wine, I'm more inclined to believe that what we're really drinking tonight is 50% Mourvedre, 40% Syrah, 10% Grenache.
They just messed up on their label.
I think maybe it was, I mean, that is a very typical blend.
Okay.
And it probably is what they did on a different year.
Ah,
If, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe the people that wrote about it got the wrong information.
Yeah.
But if this were Grenache dominant, it would
Mhm.
be very unusual in style for the Rhone,
ah.
because it would normally be a lighter version. Because this drinks, if this were Grenache dominant, it drinks a little bit more like it would be from Spain.
Okay.
All right. But that's, once again, when you're talking about why do you know this? Well, it's
Right.
just from experience.
Mhm.
So that's, for whatever it's worth. I don't know anyone who might have done a little bit of prep work and looking. In case anyone did, I wanted to answer the question. My opinion is that this is a Mourvedre dominant red blend, which I do love Mourvedre. I think Mourvedre is an underappreciated grape and very friendly for American palate. So now that we've gone through that very long discussion, let's just talk about, hopefully, that you guys think it's delicious. 14.5% alcohol on this. I would rate this for aging, which we always talk about, a medium ager. All right. So 5 to 10 years.
So this one's already 5.
Right.
Because
So we're in the drink.
2016.
Yeah, we're in that zone of 5 to 10 years where it's like, okay, this is going to be drinking well, and you can drink it over the next 5 years. And then after that, you should go ahead and drink these guys. Reason for being, all right, medium alcohol level for a red, medium tannins, right? It's got some nice structure to it, but it's not aggressive. And medium acidity. So you're right in the middle. You want to give this guy 5 to 10 years. I mean, it has a nice little pucker on the palate.
Yeah.
Especially as you finish. It can go with a lean steak, but not so big that I would expect to keep this guy around 20 years and have it at its best. I would drink it by 10. All right. So characteristics. Let's go with this guy. So I've been talking a bit about it already. So I'm getting more blackberry, kind of a ripe raspberry, more than I would get, and even some black cherry, more than I would get strawberry. So on this guy, some nice baking spices, a little allspice, a little pepper. So that's going to come from a combination. The Grenache is spicy and Syrah is peppery.
I feel like I was getting more pepper when you first opened it. And since it's opened it up, I'm getting less pepper on both the nose and the taste.
I can totally see that happening. It's going to evolve.
Because at first I was feeling like, not in a bad way, but kind of overwhelmingly, really peppery. And now I can feel it, especially on the finish. But it's not, I feel like it's evolved already, and it's been open 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. It doesn't take long with this guy, yeah. Which is nice. Keep giving it a swirl. So, but would you say it's easier to taste the fruit now?
Yes.
That it's had a minute, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's relaxing. It's not as tart.
Yeah.
You're getting a little more of the richness in that fruit. And that's where it's just kind of, I think of it as like a flower. It's kind of opening up, Now, would you guys go with, and I think this is a really good observation on this one, a little bit of like a cherry cola effect?
I'm not getting cherry cola.
Not on the nose.
Okay.
Right, but more on the palate. Kind of a cherry cola kind of thing. It was like, that was one of the observations, and I thought, okay, it wouldn't be what jumped out at me right away, but I'm not against that. I can go with that.
The chat box. So, okay, Chris says.
Chris says yes on the cherry cola.
Dr. Pepper. You know what's funny? Cherry cola and Dr. Pepper are almost the same flavor. I mean, like if you drink them next to each other, they're almost the same flavor.
Yeah.
So, and then Rachel and David, I feel like the tannins are in the middle rather than the aftertaste.
Right.
And that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so, and how about a little smokiness on the nose at this point? Now this had a minute. A little smoky, and on the palate for minerality, they talk about graphite. Graphite doesn't jump out a lot if you were going to be Grenache dominant, which is another reason I'm going toward the darker ones. But a little pencil shaving on that, I think I'm getting that. That makes sense to me. So let's talk about what you guys are thinking. So now that I've kind of laid out the basics of kind of what I'm seeing and tasting, smelling. Any observations? What are you guys thinking? And if you're just thinking tasty, you know.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of black pepper, but we opened it we opened around 7:30, 7:35. So it's at this point been open for 40 minutes. But it's funny that you mentioned but as it's opening up, you're getting, I think less of that pepper and way more of that. I think it is a lot of black, like black cherry more than anything. Like you said, I don't get any strawberry.
We did say more white pepper than black pepper.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a prickly kind of bright spiciness. Yeah. I would definitely go white. I like that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And I like that Rachel and David were saying they're really interested in Mourvedre now. Mm-hmm. And really, if you want to get a great example of Mourvedre, we should jump back to Spain, which I'll do in the near future, and drink a 100% Monastrell. Monastrell is the Spanish word for Mourvedre, same grape. And they're one of the only ones that work with it as a single varietal.
Okay.
And it's usually a blending grape, but I think it's delicious. We had some of it in Australia where they call it Mataro. Remember the Ball Buster by Tate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So their version, the Australians make a lot of GSMs as well.
Okay.
So Grenache Syrah, Mourvedre, but they call it Grenache Syrah Mataro. But still, it's a GSM. Okay. And it does run around the world. I mean, the GSM blend, which we're drinking tonight, is an important blend. And we have visited this before with the Iguigal. That was about a year ago. So it's been a while since we've been here. The difference being too that the Guigal is the Southern Rhone in general. And this is going to give you the flavors from a specific sub-growing area called the Lirac, which is in the name. So Lirac is a growing area within the Southern Rhone. We'll check that out in the maps.
Okay. And then I thought somebody else wanted to say something. I heard a voice for a moment, but then
Absolutely.
That might have been me. The white pepper I get.
Okay.
We got delayed in opening our bottle, so I just opened it at 10 of 8. So I'm waiting for it to open, and it got a little too cool, so I'm waiting for it to warm up and open up. And
sure.
All right.
But the pepper I get for sure, and I'm gonna go with the raspberry more on the fruit, the more tart.
Sure. Early on, that's exactly what.
Yeah.
It's actually relaxing into a really nice old world balance now. Where the fruit is now completely balanced with the spices and the minerality.
Yeah, now I'm getting a little more of the cherry.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was fruit dominant to me. Now I'm getting a really nice balance where you're not immediately your impression now when I take a sip anyway, is not immediately all about the fruit.
Right.
You're getting just as much spice and graphite on that guy, which is great quality.
Yeah. So. And then I was going to mention the chat box, Rick and Gail. Leather in the glass.
Absolutely. Good call. Very good call. Yeah. Kind of a fresh leather, So what does
which grape would that come from?
So the leather's most likely going to come from Syrah and I would go with some of the Mourvedre.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, not the Grenache.
Right. Once again, not another thing that would indicate you're like, probably not Grenache dominant on this guy, And so I agree. It's like, I'm checking you out. I'm not seeing it. So, interestingly, other leather is common with Cab,
right?
Which is, not here tonight, right. But yeah, that's why the Mourvedre is more the kind of the richer version of these grapes, where the others can get kind of lean and spicy and bitey. And to me, that's where I'm thinking it's going to come from. So let's check out this location, if you guys don't mind joining us. All right. So we talked a little bit the GSM blend. It's it is popular throughout the world and is kind of synonymous with a quality blending of grapes.
Sorry, I was trying to bring the chat up and it clicked off of it. There we go.
Okay. So originated in the south of France, and like I said, Grenache Syrah Mourvedre. So here we are. I kind of covered that already, but hey, there we go. I always want to make sure there's a visual to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for some reason, it's when I'm clicking on chat, it's not bringing it up. So whoever typed in the chat box, we will look at that when we're off of the slides in just a moment.
Okay. All right. So here are some of the primary flavors: raspberry, blackberry, rosemary, baking spices, lavender. It is anticipated it should be dry, medium to full body. So I think that nails it right here. We're kind of a medium plus on the body here. It's not thin or lean like a Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not all the way hitting us over the head like a big, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not. Okay.
Oh, right.
So I moved the tools and the chat did show up now. So is there a way we can definitely find out the exact blend?
I will talk to the rep to see. But I'm going to tell you that no matter what I find out, I will tell you I was right.
And then Chris and Robin paired it with ratatouille gnocchi. I think the tomatoes really help bring out the fruit. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So medium to medium high tannins. I would give this guy a medium plus.
Yeah. Yeah. And like
medium acidity, which I talked about. And then ABV is 14 and a half. It's kind of right there in this area. So this wine falls in that area, though I would say it's more on the richer, darker fruit as far as on the baseline. So, all right, moving on. Yep, please. All right, so what do we have here? We have a combination of 3 different grapes, right? So the Syrah is intense with flavor, medium on color for what it provides in the zone here. And the Syrah provides a really nice kind of medium plus level of acidity from the center. Grenache, much thinner skinned, providing light color, spicy, lighter red flavors, and a lot of acidity. And then the Mourvedre is a purple beast. So it's more toward a Malbec and styling.
Okay.
So you're gonna have not necessarily a super thick skin, but a very intense dark skin on that, with with much less acidity toward the middle. And then that's one of the reasons the French really do believe in blends, is because you can balance and create the tastes that you want instead of being held to only what that vintage is going to offer you. So I'm sure that they do have other vintages in which the Grenache is the dominant. I'm sure that's why it's on there.
Right.
Right. And maybe I'm wrong this time, because this place can be really warm, and maybe it was a very intense year. We'll talk a little bit about the growing, the growing conditions in that area. Could be wrong, but I feel like it seems awfully reasonable that what was written was right. So
what was written in the reviews? In
the reviews,
yeah,
right, with the dominant Mourvedre. So here we are. Where are we? We are in France, in the southeastern France, right here.
Okay.
Zooming in. Down in the purple area. So this whole area is the Rhone, right? It's named for the river. The Rhone River runs right through it all. The river runs through it.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So the Southern Rhone is here. Northern Rhone up here. The Northern Rhone on red wines is known for Syrah explicitly. So not a blend. It tends to be just Syrah.
Okay.
When you go to the Southern, you get these blends. GSM being the dominant one. They actually work with up to 18 different grapes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of grapes in the Southern Rhone.
Wow.
The white is like, okay, well, GSM is what Southern Rhone is known for the red. What is it known for the blend on the white? No specific blend, all right? There are too many options. They all use a very different set of, because they've got so many grapes that they work with down there. So they're all very different. And let's go here. So here we are zooming into the Rhone specifically. We are drinking from the center of Rhone in the, where am I? Gigondas and Chateauneuf du Pape. Here we go. Chateauneuf is here. See this?
In the red?
Yeah, in that rust color. And then we are right here across the river from them in Lirac.
Okay.
which they don't have it listed as much there, but hey, here we go. So you see Lirac is here.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah. And then Chateauneuf is here. So Chateauneuf du Pape is the most famous subregion within the Southern Rhone. And they because of that, they get the most for their wines. They are amazing. They're absolutely delicious. The reason that I love Lirac is it's right across the river. So a glacier came down through here, threw rocks and clay all over the landscape, right? And it's on either side of the river. But Chateauneuf, was the first one to really make some amazing wines over there, and on the eastern side. But on the western side, it's basically the same. And
they just don't have the name.
They don't have the name. So you can get that flavor profile of a $60 to $70 Chateauneuf for sub 30, which is the fun part of Lirac. That's why I seek out Lirac. It's a little bit like why we drank the Cru Bourgeois, right? When we were in Bordeaux, because you're able to get some of those flavors from some of the great crus,
right? And
really have a wonderful introduction to the region without having to jump up into the $60+ range.
Sure.
By the way, at some point, we've got to taste Gigondas. Oh, it's so good. Sorry. All right. So just like Chateauneuf, ground covered in small stones called galets, originally from the bottom of the Rhone River. The glacier came down and pushed it all up over the sides. Chateauneuf du Pape is on the east side of the river. Lirac's on the west side. I said left side. That would be a matter of perspective, but anyway.
As you're looking at the map, the left side.
Right. So let me make sure. Classic white blend, Lirac.
Their vines look pretty thick, pretty old.
Yeah, well, they've been making wine here for a long time. Okay. Actually, we'll talk about the age of this winemaking area when we get to talking about Domaine de Marcoux in just a few minutes. So. Okay. Soil is limestones deposited by glacial movement, red clay underneath. We've heard about quick drying land with a combination of minerals and from the clay and from the stones many times. It's time and time again, it gives character. The Mistral wind is just as important as the soil, though, in this case. So we talked about the Mistral before. It's incredibly important to this area. We have a wine in the store named Le Mistral, which we all drank about a year and a half ago now. So the Mistral winds are created because of the temperature pressure differences in the ocean up here, and then down to the low pressure down here in the warmer area. It pulls this wind down. So they have 30 to 50 mile an hour winds almost all year.
Oh, wow.
Up to 80 mile an hour winds. So it's constantly moving. What does that mean for our grapes? It thickens the skin.
No mold.
Gives them more character and no mold. Exactly, no mold. So you're not going to get rot. It's going to continue to dry those grapes out.
Yeah.
So during the summer, we have something.
Somebody just came in.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. So during the summer, we're talking about a very dry, warm growing season with very little rain. But this is interesting. So we talked about long hang time in Spain, in Australia, in Greece. So normally what they're thinking is what we do not want is late season rain, right? We've said that almost as if that is a universal,
because it fills up the grapes and it dilutes it.
You're right. You don't want to dilute the grape juice. It's so difficult and dry down here because of that wind and the heat. They actually want late season rain to plump the grapes because they've got plenty of sugar and character to extract already, and they need some volume. So when I was reading about Domaine de Marcoux, they actually look forward to the late season rain to plump up those raisinating grapes to give them the ability to get some volume in this.
That is completely the opposite of everywhere else we've talked about.
First time I've ever come across it. First time.
And welcome to Bubbles and Kiwi. They're the ones that just joined us. So hello.
Hey guys. So anyway, so that was the end of that. All right, so here we are. This is Domaine de Marcoux. Over on so Domaine de Marcoux is actually in Chateauneuf du Pape.
Oh.
So what we're not only drinking something and say, oh, well, this area is basically the same soil wise,
Right.
the same with the temperatures.
Mhm.
It's the same winemakers made at the same facility. They just went over and they grabbed those grapes. They own that area. So even they understand it's, it's there.
the
So
same.
it's even more so like, this is a fantastic opportunity. Buying a Lirac, there are not a lot of options in the state of Florida that allows you to taste what flavor profile you're getting into with a Chateauneuf without having to go into that higher range. So if you really love it, you can explore confidently.
Sure.
And that's why I love this. It's a gateway wine for getting into Chateauneuf du Pape.
Next.
Yes, please. All right. So, like I said, they're located in the most famous of the Southern Rhone wine regions. It's family owned from a settlement family from the establishment of the local cities. All right. They've been there since the city was formed in 1344. And a version of the Armenier family has been there ever since.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
So Sophie, this is Sophie and Catherine, and they're the two running it now. And they're direct descendants of the family that's been there since the 1300s. And then on the bottom is Vincent, which is Sophie's son, who's now beginning to work with them.
Okay.
Because they're beginning to lean toward retiring.
Okay.
So he started in about 2014. It's not that new. He's been there like 7 years now.
Wow.
So they just basically source from across, and they do control the growing area. They have an area in Chateauneuf du Pape. They also control I think it was about 15 acres, if I remember correctly, over in the Lirac. Wonderful value wine, hand harvested, destemmed, and aged in concrete, by the way, not oaked this week. So all the spiciness, what we're getting is from the grape. Not from there. Now, one reason is because I mentioned we're getting a lot of graphite this week, like a significant amount of nice mineral content. That's going to be enhanced because it was in concrete. Right.
So I don't know if we talked about this before, but to me, like I imagine concrete and I imagine it's porous, just absorbing everything. And then I don't know why you would, because like if you're putting it in metal, obviously it's not going through.
Right.
If you're putting it in oak barrels, then even though wood is porous too, but I know that barrels work too. And but concrete just seems, I mean, I guess it's treated with some, well, I guess you can seal it because you can do countertops with concrete too.
It is porous, but it doesn't leak.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. The vineyard is organic and sustainable.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So ever since 2010, they got their official designation.
Yeah. So they're officially organic.
They are officially.
Okay. Wow. That's
Organique.
A lot of work.
Biodynamique. Yes. It's more fun to say in French.
So, I mean, most things are. So.
All right. Fair enough.
But it's I know it's a lot to get that organic label. But it's amazing how many of these wines that you've presented to us each week that are sustainable or something. And so we may have talked about this before. So I don't know if it's just like the winemakers you're choosing, or if that's the tendency in the winemaking just business
for higher end, especially family owned higher end winemaking, they feel like they're real stewards for the land.
Okay.
I see this as a theme time and time again. They really love their land.
Okay.
And so that's what they do, and makes total sense. The other thing is with the French, more maybe than anyone else that I've seen, they were already doing it.
Okay.
Like, for them, it was just a matter of proving what they'd already been doing. Because that the French very much believed in that behavior anyway.
Okay. Well, and I'm not sure if like the areas that we talk about, so we're talking about fast drying soil. We're talking about often places that, well, never are they getting a lot of rain.
Right.
They're not humid. places.
Right.
A lot of times we've talked about wind too. They can't possibly have the bug issues that we do here.
They do not. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they don't have the insect issues.
So they're just, I mean, it was not even an issue for them, like as far as using insecticides and stuff, it's just not the same as being in Florida.
Right. They really never had to deal with it. So, why not just go organic, because you're not getting the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you got the wind constantly blowing. Those bugs for a long time have just been like, I can't go there.
Yeah.
I get blown right out over the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
It's no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just go to Florida. So.
Yeah, they're all blown to Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
Next.
Yes, please. All right. So ratings on this guy. Like we saw, getting consistent 92 points. If you look at the adjacent ratings, we've got 91s, 93s all around it. So you want to average it around, it's a 91, 92 point wine every year, which when you look at who's making the wine, what other wines they're making, which are really well rated, Chateauneuf du Pape, that doesn't really shock me. But the bottom line is, do we find this thing to be an outstanding wine of superior character and style? Maybe it's a very good wine. Right. And nothing wrong with a very good wine. I mean, it's like, hey, you know what? I enjoyed it. It was a good wine. That was nice.
Yeah.
And you know what? You could be head over heels. This is a classic. I want this wine at my son's wedding, my daughter's wedding, and I'm going to toast that when I turn 95. I want this.
So we've got one rating in the chat box already. Chris said 90. Very good. Verging on the next higher category. So Robin, 91 to 92, very good food wine.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
That old wine, that old world showing up, all the spice and character, and not being fruit dominant. I love that part because it makes it great for food.
So, and then the Snyder's, we paired it with a stir fry that included carrots and zucchini over rice, lighter soy sauce. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
nice.
Harriet and Jerry, great with the pepper steak, 92.
Oh, yeah. You guys said you were going to do that. Nice.
Yep. And then the Snyder's also say 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Would you like a top off?
Yes, please. Thank you. Not too much though, because I have not eaten yet.
Okay. I'm going to have a little more. But yeah, this is I like that we can really enjoy, I'm at least enjoying the wine now, and it would be an amazing food wine. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a bridge wine.
Right. And then let's see, we've got Brenda, Linda, John, and Laura, 90, 92. So it looks like maybe they're evenly split. I don't know. And then Kiwi says 93 when opened. Had it last night when it was opened. Okay. So she revisited. That's great. Right.
Oh, wow. I'm using my line now. I would revisit this wine. That is definitely something I would do.
And she's going to have it with food now, with steak. Perfect.
Yeah, we can go. Not an everyday wine paired with grilled barbecue. I get that. Yeah, it's if I were to just casually drink something delicious in red, I'd probably go something a little more fruit forward. But then again, we're talking about old world wine here, so it's got a great crossover potential for food. And I think that's what they're saying, and I agree with them 100%.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to grab, well, I could name a couple of different name brands, but we'll just stick with this one right now.
So, when because we're kind of talking about that distinction between a food wine and just a wine you would grab to drink without food.
Right.
Do you find that the American palate, like that old world version, like we really feel like we need to have food with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we have so much lively young oak on our reds, because you get a lot of vanilla and toasty, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that.
On our reds, meaning like California reds,
and red blends,
Oregon,
and that
Washington.
kind of right. So you get this nice, soft, rich wine, which is easy to drink and enjoy without food. It could tend to overwhelm a lot of foods. That's why you call the other ones this is going to complement food.
Okay.
And that's where the food versus no food wine kind of thing goes. Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
I really like it. I would love to have it with pepper steak. So, and we have a filet in our freezer, but
that's true. It's thawing for tomorrow.
It is. Okay. It's thawing for tomorrow.
That's right. I'll bring another bottle home.
Sounds good. Okay, the Snyder said they love the Tate that you mentioned. Yeah, the Ball Buster. Yeah, I feel like this wine would be good with or without.
That's a great option. You're right. That's a great example of a wine that goes either way. The Tate is fantastic with or without food.
Yeah.
Well, the Ball Buster specifically.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the other one, which needs to be with food, in my opinion, the Wild Ride is a GSM.
Oh.
So it tends to be a little bit more of a food wine blend.
Okay.
Rather than something that would just be Cab, Merlot, Cab, which is more Bordeaux blends. So anyway, I like this wine a lot too. I think it's delicious. I would give it an easy, I'd call it like I wouldn't even stress about it. 91.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
not
do,
just getting in there. I'll give it a little bit of a margin of error to get above the hump into the 90s. Delicious wine.
Yeah.
And I love the ability to pair this with something a little more elegant and to be able to just enjoy it also on its own. And this definitely puts you into just like, wow, if you're enjoying these flavors and you want to go even further, check out Chateauneuf du Pape. For a special night, I get it, but check it out. It's really good. So, and I love once again that it took me a while to find this. We had a Lirac in the store, a Lirac rouge for many years, which left the state of Florida, might have left the country. And so I had to find a new one. There were 4 more options in the state of Florida. I tried all of them. This was the 4th. I had given up. The other 3 were not up to par. They were not good enough. They were fine. I mean, they were tasty, but they were soft and round, and they didn't have enough character. Like if you were going to drink that, just go grab a Cali Red Blend. They were too round and they didn't have enough character. And then I had this one, and I was like, oh, finally, this guy gives me the character of Chateauneuf du Pape. But once again, at the
not a
Lirac
$60
pricing.
bottle,
right? So. And it gives you that ability because I love that crossover. Once again, it's like, all right, this is moving you towards Chateauneuf. And anyway, so I really enjoy this wine. I thought it really worked out well. I'm excited to have it in the store. It is a wine that will evolve with time, but the nice thing is right now we're getting this vintage that's already 5 years in, so it's drinking really well.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I'm gonna stop the share a moment.
Okay.
Before we move on.
Sure.
Okay. So before we move on to the last one, does anybody have any, because the last one is the next wine, right? Okay. Does anybody have any issues with the cork? I saw Kiwi struggling to get into her bottle.
No, it's super quick. Just
no, this one was easy. It was quite nice.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. So one, do you know if this wine or GSMs in particular are, and I know there's a word for it, but I don't know the word, like the type where the grapes are all mixed together and then blended, or are they like blended made into wine individually and then?
So exactly, good question. And then the word is co-fermented. So is it co-fermented or is it fermented separately and then blended to taste for that vintage? It's a good question. They did not specify, but just like when I'm talking about, because I'm talking about the difference in the percentages, my feeling is that they are not co-fermenting and that they are probably tasting the barrels and bringing it to taste depending on what they want that season.
Why is that your feeling?
Because of the potential for the fact that maybe the blend is so different on the back. So therefore they were blending to taste rather than just what they're going to get. Because if you co-ferment,
you've already set percentages.
Exactly. You've already set your percentages. What you get is what you get.
Yeah.
And that it's much more of the French philosophy to say, well, I'm going to blend, which is why they do blends. I'm going to blend to get the flavor that I think is the best I can get out of this vintage. So because of the other thing, in addition to what I'm tasting, I think this was not co-fermented. Once again, I could be wrong, but that would be my opinion.
Yeah.
So my second question is, I guess, how did GSM get the initials? Because like, obviously we've had plenty of red blends, and I've had like a Grenache Syrah Cinsault or something like
Right.
that, but which it reminds me of like BLTs, where it's like, it's not a BLT unless it has all three of them, I guess. But so like, how did that happen?
Right. By the way, you can totally eat a BLT with this. That is because Southern Rhone is so powerful, and because France is so powerful in the world. And to be honest, if you look back at the history of quality wine being produced, so you've got Burgundy, right? Burgundy is, if it's red, it's Pinot Noir. And then you have Bordeaux. If Bordeaux is red, it's going to be Cab, Merlot, Cab Franc, Malbec. Not always all of them, but certainly Cab and Merlot will be there. Or Merlot Cab, depending on which side of the river you're on. So that's their blend. And then the Rhone, while not quite as powerful, historically as Bordeaux or Burgundy, is a very powerful, long history of great wines. And because they almost exclusively are Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre blends that are dominant, even though they'll have maybe 6, 7, 8 other ones in there, Cinsault and that kind of a thing, in a minor capacity, the dominant grapes are almost always Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre. And so that GSM became a thing. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about this one?
That's right. All right.
Okay. Then we will share.
Still makes me happy. That's a good one.
It is. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So next week, here are our sources. Wine Folly, once again. I know, I always forget my sources. Wine Folly, amazing. Buy their books, look at their website. And if you guys want to do anything on your own, check them out. They are awesome. They're fantastic. Wine Spectator gives me a lot of information as well. Wikipedia, I use it for mostly information about the region, and then of course their own website, which makes total sense. Right. So thank you, Domaine de Marcoux, for telling us about your own wine.
Yeah,
so,
there you
go. All right. So next week we are going back to California. You guys have taken me. We've done our run, and like I say, I always run out. I make you guys drink some stuff that you've never had before, and then we run back to California for a Californian hug. So the Sidebar, which is by Ramey, a fantastic winemaker. What we're doing, so last time we had a Zinfandel from California, it was Napa, because I wanted to really show people, and I loved the response, because people are saying, wow, I didn't realize Zin could be so elegant, right? So we had the Gurgitz Zinfandel. Now that was in Napa, which is great, it's wonderful, but there's a bit of an argument about where is the better place to grow Zinfandel. Is it in Napa or is it in Sonoma?
Okay.
So Ramey does a great job. They actually source from Napa and Sonoma based on where is the better place for the grape, and their opinion is Sonoma's better for Zin. So next week, we're going to taste, kind of as a juxtaposition, the Sonoma version of Zinfandel.
This is also part of Jeff's campaign to get Zinfandel as the official grape.
Zinfandel is the official grape of the United States of America. All right? I don't want to hear anything else. We grow, well, we'll be talking about it again. You guys heard.
We'll talk about it. He'll talk about it.
All right. You guys heard all my shtick on the Zinfandel last time. We will cover it again. Hey, you know what? I love Zin. We make the best.
There you go.
So anyway.
So this is like one of Julie's favorites, right? The Sidebar?
Well, I don't know specifically. By the way, you remember the Sidebar red blend? That was your first favorite wine from Tipple's? They don't make it anymore.
Oh, okay.
So you
so
love
I haven't
that.
had this one.
You haven't had this one.
Okay.
By the way, Sidebar also made, do you guys remember the Kerner that we had? That really cool white? You're right. That was so wonderful. These guys make wonderful wines. Ramey is a fantastic winemaker, and the Sidebar line is the line that's kind of outside of Napa.
Okay.
But
Well,
they
kind of, because this one's in Sonoma.
it's in Sonoma, so they do some Ramey stuff that's outside of Napa too, because it's the Chardonnay, because they go to Sonoma where it's cooler. So,
Right. Okay.
anyway, this is let's go enjoy this guy. So let me just go with that.
Right.
It's
Yeah, you'll see. You can say a lot more about it next week.
I
You
know
have to
I'm
hold
holding
yourself
back because I've already
right now.
begun preparing.
Yeah,
and
don't.
I'm going to give you guys the whole presentation on that too soon. But I hope you guys saw the pairings.
I don't know what your computer just did.
Oh, that's fun.
There
we go. Barbecue pork ribs, leg of lamb, grilled mushrooms with Brussels sprouts. Oh yeah.
I'll skip the Brussels sprouts.
I love Brussels
I'll do the
sprouts.
grilled
Come on.
mushrooms. Jeff has to make Brussels sprouts just for himself to enjoy.
That's right. I mean, Brussels sprouts with goat cheese would be amazing, or blue cheese would be
Do
amazing.
Goat cheese with grilled mushrooms, and you can keep your blue cheese and your Brussels sprouts.
All right, let's jump over to us. I hope you guys will join us again next week. It's a great wine.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you for joining us on an unusual night. We had a conflict yesterday, so we knew it would be an issue this week. Also, there is.
I mean, we weren't in conflict.
We were not in conflict. We had a scheduling conflict. So we appreciate your joining us a day later, and there will be actually a week in August that I am not here. So Jeff will be on his own.
No one's going to come. They always like it when you're here.
So, but yeah, we appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday. We were kind of worried that we would mess everybody up because I know you're used to Tuesdays. We are too.
And we're right back to Tuesdays, but thank you very much. For coming, so.
We really appreciate that. And then just in case you don't know, we do have a sake tasting on Monday. At what time?
At 7.
At 7.
Sake 101, educational tasting.
There you go.
We are running with sakes from the casual all the way up to a $77 bottle sake. So let me just say high end.
If you have not had good sake, which if you've been to like Yamato or something, you're not having.
Maybe not during the recording.
Okay.
All right.
If you've had warm sake, it's not the same.
Warm sake is not the same.
It is not the same. So try something different.
It is a whole different thing. Let's toast, and then we can actually talk about those things.
And then we will be uncensored.
That's right. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.